I welcome you all to today's episode of our theme-based webinars on Exploring English, a journey through stories, senses, and play by our very own Sonia Duggal ma'am. Okay, a little bit about her. She wears a variety of hats professionally and I'm sure personally as well. So she's an author, a curriculum and content developer. She's a writing coach, teacher, trainer, and a storyteller. She's a seasoned professional with over 19 years of experience, with multiple roles of writing fiction, non-fiction, teacher training, teaching as well, developing content, designing children's books. And yes, our early years curriculum, the Burlington Magic of Early Years, has her very own stories as part of that, right? I believe there's a story about your childhood also in there. Is that right, Sonia, ma'am?
Yes, that's true because I spent a lot of time in the mountains and we played a lot of games, which these days children are not playing. So we thought, why not put a story about a game? So I guess people have to check that up and read it.
What is
And
the story
guess which
called?
story is that? It's about games called Pitu. I don't know how many people, and Satolia. It's called by multiple names. So Satolia, Pitu, flat stones. So if people have
Ragoli.
played, you can actually do a thumbs up in their childhood. So we have to revive all those games back for our children now.
And we have a pan-India audience here with us, so they can tell us
It's
what
so
kind of
fantastic.
game they have played. Yeah, in their region, what is it called? Any Indianized games they have? So like
Right,
Lagori is the one that is, that's what it's called in Maharashtra. Yes,
right.
right, right.
And I remember playing Stapu and Gulli Danda.
Okay, all right. Amazing.
So there are a lot of games. I hope people are also. So those are the kind of games we should be playing.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes, you can definitely introduce yourself in the chat. Yes, Kanche. Yeah, I can hear some of that. Marbles is what ma'am is saying. Great. So we'll be looking at your responses. So do feel free to leave your response in the chat. And if you have any questions, please leave them in Q&A. So over to you, Sonia ma'am. I think we better get going. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Swapnil. This is fantastic. Thank you for joining us. So today, what we are going to talk about is exploring English, a journey through stories, senses, and play. Play is extremely important, of course, at all ages, but more so when children are small and young. So, what I'm going to cover today is why language learning matters and how to start, how to integrate stories, senses, and play into teaching. We'll give some practical strategies for effective teaching, hands on activities designed for pre primary learners. So, this is exactly what we're going to cover today. But let's start at the beginning. Why language learning matters? Can somebody say so? What do you think?
You mean to
So,
say the
if you,
purpose?
yeah, I was just thinking if somebody can just type in some of the words, would be like fantastic. But if not, then I can start immediately.
Monica ma'am says expressions, then there's to communicate, effective communication,
Absolutely,
feeling,
absolutely,
purpose. These are some of the responses. To interact, to
absolutely.
understand.
And if you understand that at age 3, children's brain is like sponges and they are ready to absorb every word and meaning which is being spoken. Rather, it's said that the brain grows 80% of adult brain size and language skill explodes. So, early language learning is a very critical period, which is 0 to 6 years, extremely important for children. This time, what happens is children can hear and tell speech apart. Something like if you remember small children, ba, pa, ma, these are the words which any child who's turning one would try to speak and understand. So it's very important that we start introducing languages early on to children. Now, what happens is that when we talk to children at a very early, I remember when my child was born, I was told that speak to the child, speak to him, speak to him. So, what happens? Children start listening, and then if you open your mouth and speak to them, they start imitating the sounds. So, it starts from sounds and then it goes to words. So, it's just a interesting process which happens there. So, what happens when we are talking about sounds to words? It develops a very, very strong vocabulary. Now, we show things. This is a glass. This is apple. Apple. These are bananas. These are grapes. So, what happens? Children start understanding. They start looking at things and understanding this is an apple. And grammar comes naturally at that time. That's what happens, if for natural speakers, whether it is some of the children, they learn, I mean, all of us learn our natural language very, very fast, isn't it so, Swapnil? So that is because we never learned grammar, right? It just
Yes.
comes naturally to us.
So we
So
follow
this
the whole language approach also in the early years curriculum.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I'm a very big believer, although phonics is there. We're going to talk about it a little much later, but I believe in whole language approach where they see. If you see McDonald's, they'll understand the symbol very quickly, even while reading, because they understand, oh, that's McDonald's at year two also. So that comes very, very easily to them. Also, it builds thinking and social skills. Children are able to relate things. They are able to have communicate. That's very important. That happens when uh, children know more than they're bilinguals. Okay, the puzzles, they are able to understand red as well as lal, for example, and that comes very quickly to small children. So
Yes.
they can shift between languages very fast. They can solve puzzles very quickly. So the critical thinking is much faster in children with bilingual languages there. Okay. So that's very important. And it also develops social skills. They learn to say hello, thank you very easily. Of course, all this, when I'm talking about speaking and all, it also leads to reading, as I spoke, that you see a symbol, McDonald's, a red symbol or whole language, and then it leads to reading and writing, uh, which follows after that. Singing rhymes, extremely important. So if you sing rhymes to the children, they really, the rhythm, the rhyme, the sounds, it just, they listen to the sounds, they listen to the words and connect to it very fast. Another thing is if you are saying, say, apple or cat, they can really relate to cat. So when they see a cat, they relate to a cat immediately. So it has happened in my classes where children are, again, these are children who have no knowledge of English at all. And these children, the moment they see a cat, they say cat. They don't use their own native language at the time, sometimes. But then they can also say it in their native language. So there's a shift there which happens very quickly. Uh, Again, what happens is all this builds a lot of confidence and creativity in the children. Confidence, they are able to state what they want. I want water. So that's nice. So they are able to assert themselves well. Creativity, pretend play is a very important part of children, 3 to 6 years. Pretend play is, which I'm going to cover in greater length in a while. Pretend play is very important, where they pretend to be shopkeepers buying things, or they are teachers, or they are mama and papa, or they are doctors checking their dolls there. So, pretend play is a very, very important thing which develops, and it also helps developing the language there. It sparks curiosity through fun games. Now, if we introduce stories earlier, what happens is that for example, if I take a very simple story like the hungry caterpillar, which is a story about a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, and the days of the weeks are introduced at the time. So somewhere they start understanding all that and assimilating. And so we are not only teaching languages, we are teaching days of the week and then names of foods. There is sequencing, which is a critical thinking, which is happening at a very young age, which starts at a very young age. The sequences starts happening. When we are talking about stories, it's extremely important to read stories to children, whether it's teachers in school or parents at home. I remember as kids, we used to have bedtime stories. So now we don't see as much of bedtime stories happening. So, but it's very important that children are exposed to the language at a very, very early age. So that's very important. Now, and it also creates a very emotional bond between the caretaker and the child, whether it's in school or whether it's at home. So storytelling becomes extremely important. Now, when I'm talking about all this, what is extremely important is how to introduce a new language.
Okay.
If you've seen, what I'm talking about is total immersion. So you got to immerse children into the language. So if you are going outside, you see words. So introduce children to that language. That's very important. Audiobooks, songs, rhymes. One can, in classes, label the objects. Give them as much as exposure to the language you are planning to teach. If it's English, then it has to be a lot of immersion in the classroom. And this
Absolutely.
doesn't have to be forced, it has to be gradual and natural. It has to come within, from within. So when I'm saying gradual and natural, what is very important is a bilingual setting. So the children has to relate, the kid has to relate to their language and then go to another language, which doesn't mean translations. It just means saying the same story in Hindi and the same story in English. Okay? And no translations happening, but the children will be able to relate to it. For example, we can start with इंसी विंसी मकड़ी पाइप पे चढ़ गई बारिश आई नीचे मकड़ी गिर गई सूरज निकला फिर से बारिश को सुखाया इंसी विंसी मकड़ी फिर से ऊपर चढ़ गई. That's a
Okay.
Hindi version of.
Itsy bitsy
Let's sing it.
spider, right?
Yes, let's go on. Incy Wincy Spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. An Incy Wincy Spider climbed up the sprout again. So you see, you can actually introduce stories like this. So you can start with the native language, but again, do not translate, do the target language. They'll start relating to the words. It's a very natural process which happens. And children at this age can learn more than one languages because their absorption is like sponges, as I said. So they absorb a lot at that age. So this is the fun part of it. Again, stories and songs are extremely important. You can do storytelling in at a very continuous level. Do nursery rhymes, and then you can do nursery rhymes in their native language plus in English. If use interactive storybooks. So all this is very important in early years. Play. So everything has to be role playing, very important. So what I used to do in the classroom is that I used to read a story and the children used to act out the story at the time.
Okay.
So it becomes very interesting. So every day a new story and they used to act it out. Now the
That
listening skills improve and they are able to relate to the story better. And they just used to do some action. All right. And it
Got
was fun. Then,
right.
if you have circle time activities where they're going, I went to the market. It's as simple as that. And then you ask, what did you do? So, by year six, they will start talking and making full sentences also. It might start with a word and then it goes on to become full sentences.
Got it. Now there's a
Teachers,
question in the chat, ma'am, here that is there a time limit or an age limit till when bilingual it should be bilingual or you can continue it forward?
you can continue. Actually, it's very comfortable to continue. Even our NEP NCF is talking about bilingual. But again, please be careful about it should not be translations. All right. So, what is important is that no translations should happen there. You are just speaking the same language and let the child figure it out for themselves.
Make the
So that,
connections.
yeah, make the connection and it happens. Because as I said, we all know at least two languages in India. So, at least two. And it can be more than two, actually, looking at how it is.
Yes.
Because pretend play, I'm going to again talk more about it. You can have a restaurant sitting, rather, in the classroom, you can set up a dressing area where children in free time, dress up and pretend play as much as possible. Why pretend play? We are going to talk about it more at length in a while. If you see, I mean, I'm trying to, although I have a PPT in front, but there are a lot of gestures which are happening. So if you are a pre-nursery teacher, please use gestures. You are there to entertain them in a certain way. They understand total physical response. So if you are happy, smile. If you're sad, show it, you're sad. So all that really makes a difference. Play games, dumb charades, Simon says. Okay, action words, jump, run. I can jump. I can run. So I have these children, 3-year-old in my class, and I just tell them, okay, let's run. I can jump. I can run. I can clap. So these are but also notice there is a repetition which is happening at all times. They're doing the action and then there's a lot of repetition. So the repetition can be through songs, they can be through stories, they can also be through just activities. So repetition is extremely important when it comes to learning a new language. So again, be consistent. If you are, if a teacher speaks in only English in the target language, I'm telling you, children will also make that effort to speak in the target language because they'll feel. But if you are going to switch, so there has to be some kind of consistency which is going to take place in the classroom at that time. So there has to be a fixed time where, like you're just going to talk in that language, use the phrases. For example, when the children come in, you receive them by saying, good morning, how are you? Introduce those sentence structures early on. I am fine, thank you. So over a period of time, that becomes a language. So every time somebody gives something, the teacher receives something, and you say thank you. Imitation is very common, not just in children, but adults also. It's, of course, starts human beings. So
Yes.
imitation is really important. So they will also start following you. So teachers are very important, you know, caregivers for children. So the way you are going to conduct yourself, your children are going to be the same. So that's very important.
Right.
Uh, yeah, do you have a question there?
Yeah, some of the participants have raised their hands. I would request you to put down your questions in the Q&A or your responses and questions in the chat. We can take them from there. Right. Thank you. Yes, so please don't raise your hands. Please put down the questions in the Q&A or in the chat itself. We'll pick them up from there. Thank you. Ma'am, you can continue.
Okay. So this is as far as a new language is concerned. Shall we have some? So again, I would like to say, please make it gradual and natural. Don't force it. I mean, I go to school. You आप सिर्फ हिंदी English में बात करोगे. It doesn't work like that, right? It doesn't work like that with us also. So this is something we have to just kind of practice over a period of time. I have been a pre-primary teacher, and what I understand is that they are going to just copy you or imitate you. So the kind of person you are is going to be reflected in the children. So as I said, you can introduce it in a very, very gradual manner. You don't have to force it. Some children will pick it up faster, some might just take time. But it's going to be a process and a very natural process. All good, Swapnil? Shall we continue?
Yes, yes, sure. There are some questions with respect to how to improve communication skill among children. I think during the course of the webinar that would get
I'm,
answered, right?
I'm sure. Yeah. So let's look at it. We are talking about communication skills. It has to be very tangible. It has to be very something children can understand. Very simple. All right. We are going to go into it slowly, but I just thought, how about a story now? So this is from our Burlington English pre-primary, and it goes something like this. And I'd like you to notice things here and tell how teachers would use it in the classroom. It would be like interesting to know that also. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. Mornings are so much fun. Look, the birds go tweet, tweet. Isn't that a lovely treat? What's that? I hear Aji's bell. Ting, 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 like a tune it rings. A lot of people raising hands. Woof, woof, bucks are a Simba. As Didi chit chats with Ajuba. Ajuba. Flip flop, flip flop. Splish splosh, splish splosh. The water falls into the pot. Clank, clank. The plates and spoons dance to Ai's tunes. Chop, 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 chop. Baba cuts the vegetables non-stop. Whoosh, whoosh. The cooker blows the whistle. I can hear my brother giggle. Ha, he, he. Ah, these noises from the street, all day long their sounds repeat. Bang, bang, trink, trink, honk, honk, tap, tap, beep, beep. And then night softly nears. I whisper, Tara, Tara dear, time for bed. Shh. All is quiet now in my bed. Dreams dance softly here.
Quite some storytelling. I think a big round of applause for that performance. Thank you, ma'am. And we have some responses related to, I think Manisha ma'am says onomatopoeia words is what she says. Yeah.
Absolutely. So if you see, this is very relatable story to any Indian or any household for that matter. And there are pictures which speak to you, and it's a day's routine. So if you're doing routine, you can actually do this story. And it's very relatable. And of course, the language is there. When you're talking about birds, the children can see the birds, all right? And the sounds they take out. Aji's bell, they go ting, 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 ting. Like a tune, it rings. So you see, the pictures speak for themselves. And when you're reading, you can also just focus on the pictures and the sounds and the language. Or you can, when the children are in, say, year six, you can focus on the words. Then you can do a read aloud by pointing at each word there so that they can understand the word and link it to the sound of it. All right. So this is fun that you can do in the classroom. Now, if we talk about steps to language learning, let's go here. So if you see birth to 6 months, the, the children, they start recognizing sounds. As I said earlier, they have an ability to understand and hear and distinguish sounds. They begin to recognize the caretaker's voice and familiar sounds. They'll turn their head. They start cooing as early attempts at vocalization. They'll say, oh, ah. So these are the kind of things you can, caretakers can introduce. They can sing lullabies, simple repetitive songs, rattles and bells. That's what we do, so that there are sound patterns which are repeated. Face interactions, smiling, cooing back when the baby babbles. If we look at 6 to 12 months, now what happens here? Babbling becomes a little more complex. Now the baby starts rattling baba, dada. Babies begin to understand simple words such as no. By the end of this stage, the babies will start saying mama, papa. I think we all look forward to that. That when children start, whose name is the first one which is going to come in. So, what one can do is you can start talking to children at all times, point at pictures, ball, cup, teddy. So, that's what happens 6 to 12 months. 12 to 18's first words and naming starts. Vocabulary grows to 10 to 20 words. They the children can recognize words like bath, water, dog, milk. They can understand single words and identify, convey the entire idea. All right, so they can say, which means pick me up. It can be as simple as that. And they understand many words by this age. If we go further, 18 20 to 24, that's what we said, terrible twos, right? There is a vocabulary explosion which is happening. Now the vocabulary expands to 50 to 100 words. The children start combining words. Want cookie, for example. They'll start pointing, and you can start telling them more and more stories. Flashcards, books can be introduced at this age. What is this? Tree, flower. Tree, flower. So it can be very simple. It doesn't have to be very complex here. Start using soft, cotton, hard, so sensory objects. That is very important. Around 2 to 3, children start forming sentences at this point in time. Pretend play, you'll see a lot of children just talking to themselves, sitting in a corner. I know when they come to my house sometimes, their children, they're just sitting because somebody else is taking a lesson. And then, they're sitting and they're playing in one corner and doing a lot of pretend play with scarves or even clothes or dolls or teddy bears. So that's very important. So here, read aloud stories become important. Sequencing stories become important. Children start playing with peers. They can play blocks, sit together. Maybe they'll be playing separately at this time. But actually, by 2 to 3, the self becomes, they're very aware of the self here. So that's what is happening. By 3 to 4, they start mastering conversations. They will start doing more of pretend play at a bigger level. Dress up games. That's part of, again, pretend play which takes place. Please, it's very important. Any language you are introducing, please read as much, talk to them as much. They will act out short scenes from their favorite stories at this age. And then by 4 to 6, the children can start narrating things back to you. For example, what did you do yesterday? It can be in their own native language. So every time we used to have early morning circle time was very important part of my school. All right, so where we used to connect to each other and we used to talk about what did you do yesterday, and children used to come with things, and they also learned to take turns. So I used to use any object, a teddy bear, and every time the teddy bear was passed to the next person, the child used to state something, and then it used to go to the next person. And do not again force the child to speak in English or a particular language for the matter. Let the child learn to be confident and express themselves. That is what is very important. This I will keep reiterating again and again. Please do not say English mein bolo or speak in English. Let it be a natural, gradual process. So that becomes extremely important for children, that they pick gradually. Some children, of course, are going to pick very fast, but some children are going to take time. So it's a process. Swapnil, any questions so far?
Yes, yes. While we are focusing, I think, on the milestones in the early years, I think this is quite informative. There are teachers from the older classes, I think they are asking questions related to how English grammar can be taught easily to the students. So I think we can open this up to the audience or the participants as well. So if they have suggestions on how English can be taught or how they are teaching English uh, easily to teachers or what are their techniques, they can put the responses in chat as well. Yeah.
See, here, when we are talking about introducing English language at an early age, we are talking about starting with words, going on to sentence structures in a very natural way. I teach English to very small young children, and I do not use grammar words like this is noun, this is verb. It's just getting complicated there. All right. So if you want, do you do that in your native language? Swapni, did you learn like that? Did you learn Marathi like that?
Absolutely not. And I've always been very like a functional English person, I think.
Absolutely. No, even Marathi, I mean, you don't learn like that, right? That comes later. So here we are talking about gradually making children bilingual. That's the whole idea. So when we are talking about making children bilingual, the way you would introduce the first language, similarly introduce the second language. The the main thing is be consistent. It's very important to be consistent. If one caretaker is going to only speak in the target language, it just helps. For example, when the teacher goes into the class and the children say, "Good morning, ma'am," they know, right? "Bye, ma'am. Please sit down." So there you're not translating in the head there. All right. You're just saying, "Please sit down." So lot of my name is Sonia. He is Swapnil. So what we are doing is gradually, step by step, introducing children to a language. I hope I'm able to make you understand that you do not have to force children into any language, be it English or any other language for that matter.
Yeah.
But you got to be consistent if one has to make children bilingual. Any
Yeah.
any
Yes, a related question is that is it okay to make it mandatory for learners to speak only in English and not bilingual for pre-primary learners?
No, please don't do that. That's what I have been telling you. Do not do that. It's okay. Children are still coming into their own persons, right? You cannot not let them express. Rather, when we are writing, to teachers lesson plans and all, we write, allow the children to express themselves. Be gentle. Do not force a language down. They will understand. you have to be very patient. Pre-nursery is a time when teachers got to be the most patient and role models for the children.
Okay,
I
I think
hope I'm
that's all.
able to
Mhm.
answer.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am. Right, and we are only halfway, we're just a little over the halfway mark for the webinar. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So you can introduce children to silly rhymes. See, the first thing is that children are able to speak. That's absolutely important. You know, the pronunciation, the sounds, the intonation, the rhythm, the rhymes. So it goes like, I am a dancer, dun dun. Will you do it, Swapnil, for me today?
Okay, I can try that. I twirl around, having fun. Is that the tune? I leap like a
And
fawn, hop, hop, hop.
hop.
I spin like a top, never stop.
I wiggle and giggle, shake, shake, shake. Dancing is so much fun. So you can have fun. And if you see, we are talking about somebody did mention onomatopoeia words, right? So we are talking about dun, 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 hop, 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 shake, 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 and having fun there. So it's hugely important that we go transient from sounds into words. That's what happens. If I say tup, 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 what does that remind you of?
The water, the raindrops.
Chum, 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 then.
Is it like some pile or something?
Yeah, it can be water also, right? Drip, drop, pitter, patter. How about tick, tock, tock?
Yeah, that's the clock.
Right. What's that?
Sorry, is it something that you're playing or?
Tuck, 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 tuck.
Okay, okay, okay. That's this footsteps.
Yeah, or knock, right? So that's how children relate sounds to words to begin with.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
right. And then actually these words become more complicated as they grow. All right. So, first thing is recognizing sounds. So, if a child hears a dog bark and the sound woof, 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 he'll say woof, 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 woof. Sometimes you'll hear children say woof, woof, not dog. So,
Right,
the
right.
child can relate to the bow bow. What's bow bow? Dog. Okay. So,
Right.
that's what happens. Those are the first step in listening and speech skills. Then they start associating sounds with meaning. If a child in another room hears the sound crash, he knows or she knows or they know that something has broken, something has fallen in there. So here, the children have started associating vocabulary and giving meaning to everyday sounds and experiences. That's exactly what was happening in Tara's home, if you remember. So
Yeah.
if she hears the bell ring, she knows it's time that my grandmother is doing puja somewhere.
Right.
Or if it's chop, 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 that something is happening in the kitchen, there is food. So the cognitive skills are taking place here,
Interesting.
right? So a child might say moo for a cow before learning the word cow. All right. But these are simple words which serve as stepping stones to more complex language learning. Tick tock, that means it's repetition happening, right? So if you see dun, 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 so there's a lot of shake, shake, shake. There's a lot of repetition happening. So patterns are being formed. So even if you look at stories, there is a lot of repetition which happens in the stories as well. That is because the children keep hearing the same story again and again and again, and they make it their own. And sometimes they can actually verbatim repeat the story without maybe understanding it also. So, which is also okay. So, rhythms and patterns become very important For example, the wheels on the bus go round, 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 swish, swish, swish. So, these are important. Beep, beep. These are very important sounds which happen. This also supports social interaction. If you see you can see children playing together with cars and going vroom, vroom, or zoom, zoom. So they love to play with cars and take out sounds. And there's a lot of social interaction which is happening there. So here the children are learning social skills and also having a kind of conversation, which is basically natural play method. So this is how sounds evolve into words. Then, of course, the choo-choo eventually becomes the train is coming. So it's a matter of time. By age 6, they'll say the train is coming. Having said that, sounds are still important when we grow old also. We still use words like crash, right? We still swish, swish. We still use those words. But now the vocabulary has grown and the language has broadened. So, in other words, onomatopoeia lays the groundwork for language, comprehension, vocabulary, and grammar. Any questions there?
Yes, yes. I think we have some again grammar related questions and also total physical response. Like how does it help if a child does not respond to it? How can it help?
How can it help? Physical, it's important, right? Physical, like when I said, you've got to use your hands, your mouth, your face. These are your props. So if you are going to use these so children will understand. That's why I said, if you're reading a story, maybe you can act it out. Role playing is important. Using puppets become important in a classroom. Regarding grammar, I'm again saying, please understand. It's like first it sounds, then two words. Okay, mama come. Okay, then it can go to mama is coming. So it's a matter of time. It's a very gradual process. Of course, each child's milestones are going to vary here. So you can't put everybody in a box and do that. Repeat, do not. So the children can, as long as they start understanding. So one of the things which I do with children is I speak a lot in English. Now I'll tell you the fun part of it. The children I'm talking about they are not Indians, and I do not know their language at all. And they are 2 years old, 3 year olds, and sometimes till 4 or 5. Okay. They come. I do use lot of physical responses here. All right. I do not know their languages. I really don't know their language. But they have started understanding. I do, please give me water. They say as simple as, please give me water. And I repeat. So the more you repeat, the better it becomes. Similarly, close the door. They understand. Close the door. These are 2.5-year-old children, okay? Close the door. The first time I do it and I show them, close the door. And then I say, close the door, and they do it. And then I say, open the door, they open the door. Then I do lot of, my name is Sonia. I am a girl. Then circle time, right? My name is Atari. I am a girl. So they repeat. So it goes, I am Shoma. I am a boy. So
Okay.
that's how it happens. So very gradually, you got to be very, very slow to begin with. Use the same language again and again. And then it just falls in place eventually. I hope I'm able to answer that bit of it.
Yes, yes. I think this involving the child, right?
Absolutely. So, sound mimicking. Let children hear sounds, right? It's important that they start listening to sounds around them. Go for listening walks. See, a lot of things we are not doing. I do not think parents are, or the caregivers have the time to spend with children. I was in a school and they said the child is in grade 1 and not able to speak because nobody is speaking to that child at home. It's so, it's like, I don't know. I don't have words for that. And either we are on our mobile phones or talking to people. So, I mean, when I started, I said, being the first, I mean, I was mother the first time, and I was told at the time, speak to your child. Just don't keep looking at him, talk to him. It was literally, and we do that, right? We talk to children. You would have seen grannies talk to children every time. It's not that the children, so it's very important to talk to children
There's a certain
and make,
fatigue, I believe, with parents, like with the questions that come up. I think they get tired after a while. Yeah.
yeah, that's also true. So this is very important. Read stories to them. It doesn't take long. Everybody wants their children to start reading quickly or rewriting quickly. I mean, go with the process. It's very nice. It's beautiful, actually. I mean, my children are grown up, and I miss that time when I used to go out and hear the birds chirp or the cars honk. So the story is not just standalone. If you look at Tara's home story, it's all kind of building it up. All right. There's a routine to her, life. Play rhyming games, cat, hat, mat, sit in circle, circle. Teachers, you have to sit in there, play games. I say cat, you say hat. And then the third person says cat, hat. And the fourth person says something else. Then they start again. All right. So memory develops, words develop, pronunciation develops, rhymes develop. You can use flashcards also. Very important at this time is flashcards. If you're talking about animals, farm animals specifically, then saying old MacDonald had a farm. Go to a farm, show them. Go for, I mean, if there is a farm close by, show them. This is how a farm looks like. Make a story around that. I used to do that. So there are these Topsy and Tim stories where the children go on a train. So I read the story and then we went on a train. It became experience for the child, and the child experienced everything. What was written in the, it was like, you buy the tickets, then you go inside, somebody will come give you food. So the entire process was in, so it became very, very interesting. So stories are hugely important. Any
Okay.
questions there, or shall we go on to a story? I feel like telling a story now again.
Yes, you have almost like 10 minutes for us to wrap up. There is a question with respect to how to integrate cultural understanding into English language learning.
So there are a lot of so right now what's happening, I do not have the poem right now, but there is a poem in Burlington book where we are talking about halwas and nanis and dadi. So you are getting the cultural element in through stories also, right? So that's very important. So
Right.
you
So,
tell a story which is based in our culture, and if you see, there are a lot of words spluttered from. Aji is not an English word at all, right? So it's important that it's a mix, and it's very relatable to children at that time. If you look here also, this is a turtle story which talks about turtle, talking turtle. Again, if you're reading the story, it goes like Turtle the turtle and Hira and Mira the geese live near a forest lake. All day long they eat and talk, they talk and eat. Bring their attention to the pictures. What is this? Who is this? Who's this? What is this? So all kind of questions come in. Turtle the turtle loves to talk all day. He talks to the elephant, he talks to the giraffes, he talks to the monkeys. One day, Turtle the turtle sees that the water in the lake is reducing. Where is the water going? He sees Hira and Mira, the geese, coming. No rain means no water. We leave, we have to leave the forest. Hira and Mira, the geese, have an idea. They bring a thick stick from the forest. Hold on to your stick with your mouth, do not talk. Then they hold the stick from both ends, they flap their wings and lift off into the air. Turtle the turtle, Hira and Mira, the geese, all together. As they fly, Turtle the turtle looks down. He sees mountains, trees that look so small. And you know what he does? He says, "Wow!" And he opens his mouth and he falls like with a thud. See, now the sound is coming in. Kind Arya finds Turtle the turtle in the fields. He picks up and takes him to a nearby lake. Turtle the turtle wakes up. He sees Hira and Mira, the geese, looking at him. You opened your mouth. We told you not to talk. Turtle the turtle understands his mistakes. He is happy to be safe. Hira and Mira, the geese, look at him and give a big smile. That's it. So, stories are very important. They expand vocabulary, learn sentence structures. It comes automatically. Once upon a time, the cat sat on the mat. And again, lot of listening skills develop. It just the little pigs for what happens next. Like today, I was in a session and they said, "Oh, you know why the wolf went inside the pig's house? Because it was raining outside." So they come up with their own stories. This just happened 2 hours back.
Impressed.
So these are the kind of things children can come up and, the imagination takes place. So again, there's a lot of narrative building which happens. What you talked about was cultural concepts. It might be teaching a life skill like patience and hard work through stories, Panchatantra stories, Aesop's fables. That's what we have also used in our books here to
Right.
get to children. And of course, emotional bond we cannot, take away. Please make your stories interactive. Okay. Repeat the stories. That's what Swapnil was saying, that how much they'll keep asking and then they'll keep saying that read the same story. It's important for them. They have to make the story their own. So that's very important. Act out stories. So they start listening and the sentence structures become clearer and clearer. The vocabulary, maybe they don't understand all words, but they understand what it means. The cognitive development is happening there. Take them through picture walks, story sequencing. Create your own stories. Give them 5 words. Tell them to create their own stories. So, all this is extremely important. If I go to the pretend play, I want to go here. So, one of the things is please make all your sessions visuals. Use picture books, label the rooms, use flashcards, drawing and coloring extremely important at from 3 to 6 years of age. Auditory learning, I have been emphasizing on auditory pronunciation, intonation, rhythms. Row your boat teaches rhythm, repetitive sounds, and intonation. Play games where they can identify sounds, dog barking, cat mewing. All right. Use exaggerated tones and sound and effects for and make your stories engaging. And then it leads to phonics practice. Snake, ball. Okay. Make so if at all, give them exposure. Soft. Don't make it tangible. If you say soft, then show them a pillow, a bear, which is soft. Rough. Make them feel smooth. So you are building their vocabulary like that. Use Play Doh, sensory bins, action words, which I spoke about. So, all this helps build their vocabulary and language skills. This has to be very experiential, sweet, sour, salty. So, if you see all play schools go through this, where children taste things and then maybe lead to something. I use cooking very often to teach children English. Pour, add, cut. So you can do cooking without fire in the classroom at the time.
All the action
Then,
words.
absolutely. And then, of course, smells. How does this smell? Introduce them through uh, absolutely experiences there. So, sensory stories are very important. This is just a recap of what I just did. Take them for nature walk, cook together. So, these elements are usually important when it comes to language development and senses. If I go further, then of course movement games. That's what physical response. When total physical response is just this, that you do a lot of movement games, role play, props. If you're talking about community helpers, let the children dress up like community helpers. And it's just so much fun. I've done it in the classroom. And then story characters, shopping games. So we created a whole market where the children are selling things to each other. Before that, they did art and craft and made beads and necklaces with paper, rolled paper into. And the money was they cut, little papers, and then they were learning a life skill at the time. And before that, we took them to a round of market and showed them, oh, this is a post outfit. And it was very interesting because even I saw all that with new eyes with the children. So,
Right.
you become children when all this happens.
So which age group was this?
So, this was 5 years to 6 years,
Okay, 5 to 6. Okay, fine.
right? And of course, children can make puppets and emotion charades, very important. If you're happy and you know it, laugh out loud. So, these are songs which are taken from Burlington pre nursery books. Please check them out there. And this is how to make paper bag puppets and then play role playing there. When we talk about role playing, I want to do this, which is pretend play. It's very important. Pretend play. So this is another story you can read where it's all about how Raja pretend plays and how he's making lot of things out of blocks and playing. Even when it crashes, he builds something else. And this girl comes and helps him build a staircase, which is made of beautiful rainbow. So pretend play is very important at this age. It makes them sense their world. Okay, they play doctor, they play teacher, they play chef, and it's a control play, and children start internalizing everything. They learn to express and be creative and imaginative. Okay, social skills develop because here now children play with each other also at this point in time. I would suggest each room, pre nursery, you should have a free play time where children can do whatever they want to do and dress up and role play or play with blocks. So it has to be their time, me time kind of situation. Free play is very important at this age to build language and communication skills. It also develops emotional understanding and cognitive skills. They take decisions. Okay, oh, you have a cough. Please lie down. You'll hear children do that,
Right,
and
right.
then they'll give a blanket. You know, so it's beautiful. And then obviously communication comes automatically, right? So you will see children do a lot of pretend play and take independent decisions there. And it strengthens peer relationships also. So there's a lot to discuss actually if I go one point at one time. And of course, so one thing which we used to do, especially with year six, was they used to create their own rules in the classroom. What
Mhm.
is good and what is not good. All right. And that really helped because these were their rules. And they used to make rules, put pictures, paint pictures, and put it up. All
Okay.
right. And then it really set boundaries for themselves. So if you see, play is very important. It motivates learning, creates a context, and encourages practice. it gives an opportunity to use languages in different contexts. And then children become very creative and use different new words and sentence structures without fear of making mistakes. So if you see, this is one activity I'd like to end with this. This is from, so this is types of houses from our book. I've done this in my class where children got, pictures, and we saw read stories on houses only. And then eventually the children were supposed to make their own houses. So instead of giving a structure, this is exactly what happened in my class. So here is a horse's house by a girl called Anushka. If you
Very
see,
good.
all waste material has been used here to create the house. Similarly, if you see this, this is a playroom, and if you see, they've used, pens to make AC and, all that to make roofs. So everything, and this was their creation. We just labeled it for them. They told this is a lamp, that is an AC. And each child did their own thing. This child made a factory using ice cream cups and cotton for ice cream. And if you see on the side is the boat house with a slide made of pallets. And eventually, what happened? This is what I was talking about. And this is just leaves were used to make this. This is a princess house. And finally, by the end of it, this is what came out of it. They created, this is actually Vygotsky, Vygotsky constructivism. They created a whole city out of it. And they named it our wonderland. So we sat down and we discussed, what do you want to name? And then they started making roads, and this was on display for good 1 month, and they kept adding things to it and did a lot of pretend play around it during their free time. This was 6-year-olds, if you would
Really,
like to
really
know.
amazing. It's quite the city setup. Yeah.
Right. So in case we have time, we can take questions. So in short, this is what it is. But I
Uh,
like to take questions if we can.
yeah, so do feel free, teachers, to put the questions in the chat. We can take a minute or more too, or two for them. So what are some creative methods for teaching English grammar is, I think, place where
I
everyone,
think the next time we'll just do grammar, where we can kind of just take up grammar and talk about it.
how to make
We'll
grammar
need
fun
time
is
for that.
something everyone wants to know. And also
Mhm.
everyone is asking like, do you have any preschool curriculum? I think we
We
can
have one. So you have to go through Burlington pre-nursery curriculum. It's wonderful. I mean, it's really nice. If you go through it, I was marveled at it actually. I've done just a part of it, but when I had to look at the entire thing, it's just everything falls in place.
we do follow the four block approach from the NCFFS 2022. And yes, the whole language approach is also there when it comes to language learning. And when it comes to writing practice, we have very progressive, the three-line approach in the early years that we follow, and a very child-friendly font as well. So wholesome experience to language learning. So with that, I think a lot of thank yous coming in, and they're very much yeah, needed. So thank you, Sonia ma'am, for this
Thank you
quite
so much.
informative session. In case the participants also for being tuned in and being so responsive with their questions and answers. So do reach out to us if you do have any queries regarding the Burlington English magic of early years curriculum that we have. Yeah. And thank you for being here today, tuned in. Yeah. And until next time, I think we take your leave. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you so much.